Rocky Run Civics is proud to present the 4 major economic systems. What we hope you take away from today's lesson is that the type of economy a country has is solely based on the extent of that government's involvement in their economic decision-making, which we're about to explain. There are 4 major economic systems. Mr. Zavala, take it away.
Mr. Z represents traditional economy. What that means is you basically inherit the things that your family has. So for example, we have this duck pond over here. This is my family's duck pond. If it disappears, my family's, they go bye-bye, it becomes my duck pond. That means it's mine. I will pass on to my children, their children, and so forth.
So Mr. Zavala, if you don't want to be a fisher in a traditional economy, but your parents were fishermen, do you have any choice?
That's it, 'cause that's all I'm given. I don't have the resources to do anything else. Mr. Z, hunt and gather. I don't do anything other than working to live. I'm not going to go out and become a scientist or a doctor, a professional. I'm going to make a lot of money. My only job is to gather what I need for myself and my family.
Ooh, Mr. Z, I have a question. So if you had extra fish in your duck pond, you wouldn't sell them to your neighbors?
I'd try and make them live longer or they would die.
Got it.
This doesn't exist anymore, basically. You might find a few little pockets in the world, parts of South America, parts of Africa, and they're not even seen as countries. They're just basically tribes. So this doesn't exist.
That is Mr. Z's baby picture. We got it from his mother.
See, I told you guys I started shipping when I was young.
And then we'll move to a free market economy, which gives people a lot more choice. So this duck pond is mine. It is private property. You may not trespass. And I'm going to fish my duck, and I'm going to kill it, and I'm going to sell it to you tonight for dinner for a profit. Because in a free market economy, everyone is out to make a profit.
So Miss KZ, the government can't tell you what to do with those ducks?
Absolutely not. So I'm going to feed them all sorts of nasty things so they grow up big so I can sell them for more money and make more money for myself.
So you don't even have to make sure that ducks are safe for our consumption?
Absolutely not. And we get competition as a result of free market. So you can have my apples for 50 cents, which is not bitten. And because the government doesn't do any regulation at all, you can have Mr. Zavala's half-eaten apple for 40 cents.
It's cheaper.
Which would you pick?
It's cheaper.
What if I don't like apples?
Well, then there's lots of other choices. You could have a pear or a banana. I don't have any today.
Would you still sell the apples if nobody wanted them?
Yep. No. I would not sell anything that people do not buy. And the best part of this is you get consumer sovereignty, which means that you get to choose. So you walk into the store and you can choose the GOP elephant, or the Democrat donkey, or Elvis,
or Daryl Dixon.
And ultimately, you get to pick your door. Which will you choose? Mr. Zavala's apple.
So can I clarify one more time, Ms. KZ? So in your free market economy, you only make exactly what the consumers want?
Yes!
Thank you.
Well, she dominated
Beat the crap out of me. That's bad. I'm here to talk to you about a command economy. Bonus question for tomorrow. Can you name this North Korean dictator? In a command economy, the government decides. There is central ownership of all resources. This pond is the property of the government. We can decide to eat the ducks, starve the ducks, or do nothing with the ducks. You have no choice. A centrally planned economy. No matter how many ducks I have, or whether or not somebody wants these ducks, I set the price, and I set exactly what kind of product is going to be made. No one can change that. Which means there's a lack of consumer choice. I don't drive what is being produced. I am told what I will produce and what I will purchase. I no longer have these choices. I only have Elvis. He's not that bad of a choice.
But Miss Yale, what if I don't want Elvis?
Too bad.
You're saying
Daryl will tell you exactly what you can have in a command economy.
So,
Mr. Z,
Well, if there's not enough Elvis produced.
then you will starve and die in my economy.
and the government doesn't care?
And that is okay by me.
And the government doesn't care if I die?
Ask all the people in South Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea. Sorry, South Koreans. They fled North Korea to get away from my man in the first picture.
Which leads us to mixed economy. Individuals and businesses are the decision makers for the private sector. So we don't have apples like this in the United States because the government decides that this isn't safe and this isn't healthy and we're not going to sell it. So you have to make sure your apples are in good condition and not filled with pesticides and nasty stuff.
But other than that, individuals can make whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. The government as a decision maker for the public sector. So, like I said, the government can make decisions for just the everyday people. So,
Mrs.
make
Grant,
sure.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's the difference between public sector and private sector?
Well, private sector is sort of like your private property. We can take this back.
So that still exists in a mixed economy?
Yeah, absolutely.
All mixed economies?
Not necessarily. Not all mixed economies are created equal. Some mixed economies, and we'll go back to that in a second, lean more towards the capitalistic side, and some mixed economies lean more toward the command side.
Okay, so then what was it? Public good?
Like roads, or schools, or public libraries. A greater government role than in a free market. So before, when Ms. Casey was talking about free market economies, you noticed that the government really had no role. You could buy either of these apples and that was fine, and you got to make that choice. In a mixed economy, the government does have some role, and that varies depending on the mixed economy. It is the most common economic system today, so most countries are mixed economies. Bonus question. Can you list any countries that are not mixed economies? And no, you cannot use North Korea. Bring your answers to class.
So again, the type of economy that your country has is determined by the level of government involvement. We just said that most economies today are mixed. However, we want to point out that economic systems are on a continuum. All mixed economies, as Ms. Rand said, are not the same. From a command economy, which there are very few in existence today, all the way to pure capitalism, which they do not exist. I defy you to find one. You will find many nations falling along this continuum. The United States would lean more free market towards capitalism, whereas a country like Iraq would be free market but leaning heavily towards a command economy. Remember, check your government involvement. That's all, folks.
Just citing our sources like good people. The end.